friends, and welcome into this week's class, especially those of you who are my regulars at Somatic Yoga who are practicing at home this week because of the snow. This is going to be a lovely cozy restorative practice, perfect for winding down in the evening, just kind of stretching everything out. We're going to do some lovely juicy mobility work for the shoulders and the hips, but it's all going to be really gentle, really supported. But this could also be a really nice practice just to start the day with in this colder weather. If you're just feeling like you just want to Coorie in and stay under the covers, this is a nice gentle way to warm up the body and just gently get everything moving and feeling a bit lubricated. So we are going to use some props for today's class. I've got a bolster set up on a couple of blocks, so this would be ideal. And if you don't have these, just make like a mound of cushions that you can recline back over. I've also got a blanket just to kind of make it a little bit comfier. So we're all about cozy today. Make sure you're wearing all your cozies. You know, I've got my fleece leggings on and my thick socks. And we're, for the third pose, I'm going to be using the bolster again to come back over to floss out my neck and my shoulders a bit. So again, if you don't have a bolster there, a block could be used, or a couple of blocks, and maybe put the blanket over the top. And again, if you don't have that, just some kind of, just like a stiff cushion or a couple of cushions, or even just like a couple of rolled towels, just to give you a little bit of height that you can spread the shoulders back over. Okay, so you might want to pause the video and grab what you need. And otherwise, we're just going to come back reclining either over your cushions or against this bolster. So make sure it's not jammed up right at the base of your spine. Making sure there's a little bit of a gap and it's nice and comfy, and leaning yourself back. Oh, that's quite nice. And just take a moment just to wiggle yourself into a comfy position, whatever that feels like for you. Maybe you've been out walking in the snow and you're feeling a little bit stiff. I'm slightly worried my block's going to collapse there. There we go. Or maybe this is your first bit of movement for the day. And then just bring the soles of your feet together, settling into this butterfly pose. Just start to allow your body just to settle in this first shape. So we're thinking about soles of the feet together, knees gently opening up, and you could have your feet further away from you. You know, they don't have to be right in like a butterfly. It could be more like a diamond position. You could bring your hands onto your belly here if you wanted and just give it a little bit of a rub. Maybe into the hips, the hip flexors if they're feeling a bit sensitive. And maybe just leaving your hands on your belly just so that you can feel your breath rising as you take an inhale and falling as you take an exhale. I always really love the quiet that the first snows of winter bring. Everyone's just indoors or heading to the park, less cars on the road. And it kind of gives that muffled, hushed sound to everything. So it's just a really nice moment to get still, to enjoy some slower practices, to take a little bit of time just to turn toward ourselves with rest, with care, with tenderness. We're just going to do a tiny bit of pelvic floor work whilst we're in this position. You might want to leave your hands on your abdomen as you take a big inhale. Feel your stomach rise and see if you can really relax your pelvic floor. And as your stomach falls, just notice the natural drawing up of the pelvic floor, and maybe you want to slightly exaggerate it. And notice how your stomach muscles start to click on and get involved here. Taking another big inhale, expanding the belly and just feeling the pelvic floor stretch and relax and move down. And with your exhale, with the fall of your stomach, just that slight feeling of drawing upwards, bringing the sides of the tailbone together, bringing the front and back of the pubis and the coccyx together. Taking a big inhale, relaxing the pelvic floor. And exhale, slight drawing up and in, noticing the stomach muscles are involved. Let's just stay with this for about another 5 breaths or so. Gently just release that activity. Allow your body just to resettle into its natural rhythms. And then let's bring the hands down just to support yourself, to bring the feet up a little bit wider than hip width apart. Just staying propped up here. And we're just going to start to drop one knee in. And then bringing it back up and let it slightly fall out. And then take the other knee in. Bringing it up, let it fall out a little bit. Come back to center. Going back to that first knee, dropping it in, a little internal rotation of the hip. And up and opening out to the side. And then the next knee. Internal rotation, and then your external rotation. And just carry on like that, moving across the soles of the feet to the inside edge, rolling across the sole of the foot to the outside edge, and coming back up. You might notice if it's easier on one side than the other, if one hip flexor feels a little tighter. If there's a little bit of lubrication happening. We're going to carry on, but this time as you start to drop your right knee in and then take it out again, as that knee starts to open, notice the point of tension at which it wants to pull the left knee with it and start to let the left knee follow. Start to lift the left knee up, and as it reaches a point of width that it wants to pull on the right knee, let the right knee come up and follow the left. Right knee comes up, keep opening, and let it gently pull the left knee up, following over. Just carry on with that a few times. So we're not swaying side to side from the hips, we are letting the knees direct the movement. The knee follows over as you feel those hip flexors and the glutes, the adductors tighten. Take one more on each side. And then come back to center again. You might need to adjust yourself if you've kind of walked down your prop a little bit. Oh, there we go. And then bring the soles of the feet back together. Let the knees fall out for a moment. And just see how your hips feel now. And let's take 5 more of those gentle activations to pelvic floor here. Taking that inhale, let it relax. Notice if that feels a little bit easier. Taking your exhale, drawing the pelvic floor up and in. 4 more breaths. And let that go. Let's straighten the legs. Lift the arms above the head. Take a big stretch here. And then use your hands to help yourself come up off the prop, just in time for me. And we're going to come into a straddle position for our second pose. I'm just moving the blanket. And you could do this with a cushion as well. You might not need anything. I'm just going to roll the blanket to make like a bit of a thickness there. And I'm going to sit on the edge of that blanket where my sits bones are and sort of allow my pelvis to tilt forward. So if you're sitting right on the edge there, you'll notice as you lean forward, your bottom, so the pelvis sort of tilts forward as you roll off the edge of that mat, that blanket, and it can just give you a little bit more ease in your hip flexors and your hamstrings if they're very, very tight to be able to come into this straddle. So just making it as wide or as narrow as you would like, and we'll just start with a couple more little movements for the hips, just dropping the toes in and then rolling the toes out. So it's very similar to what we were just doing with our knees, but now we're initiating this from our feet. And so now we're moving the whole of the femur out and in. And we're just encouraging the release of synovial fluid here, which is this lovely, gooey, supportive fluid that we want in between the joints, cushioning them and making all those lovely, deep, gooey stretches really safe. Just take a couple more. And then just let that go. Just gonna move my props a little bit here. And just bring the feet up, still nice and wide. And we're going to roll onto the right hip. And as you do this, let your legs naturally fall into this Z shape. And just turn your chest to look forward over that right knee. It's a little bit like a kind of modified pigeon. And then roll back across your sits bones to the other side. And you can bring almost a little turn of the torso so you get this nice internal rotation and stretch. Let's take that a couple more times, rolling across. You can even come down over that knee. And then come back to your straddle. Again, find the edge of that blanket and let your pelvis tip forward off it, and just see if it feels a little bit comfier now in your hips in this straddle. I'm immediately noticing I just have a little bit more movement forward. We're just going to hold our hands and just imagine now that you're stirring a huge pot that's set between your legs. So just big circles. You also just do this with your fingertips on the floor if you wanted, like just tracing out a big circle here. Let your upper body get involved, starting to move now through the mid-back, the shoulders as well. Let's go the other way. Take a couple more of these big circles. And then coming back up to stillness, coming into your straddle. A couple of options now. We're going to start to really engage the legs to help us start to come forward into that forward fold. You could just bring your hands somewhere on your thighs or onto your legs and just really pull those toes back towards you. And as you feel that happening, digging your heel down, feel the engagement all through the hamstrings, along the back of the legs, all the way up to the sits bones. And that might be enough for you. So your main focus here is on creating that tension between the soles of the foot and the hip flexors and a nice straight spine. If you can reach your feet, you can bring your hands over your toes, over the balls of your feet, and then you're going to press the feet into the hands and resist with your hands. This is just going to increase that sense of tension. And because you're using that torque between the hands and the feet to help you move forward, you might find that your upper body naturally starts to come down a little bit lower because you're using slightly less effort. Whatever happens, whichever one you choose, we're just going to stay here for about 3 nice deep breaths, keeping that tension engaged through the back of the legs. So you're not pulling yourself down, you're tensing through the back of the legs, and your upper body comes to wherever it naturally wants to come to. Tuck your chin in a little bit, get a nice long back of the neck. It's 2 big breaths. And after your 3rd exhale, if you're holding your feet, just release them, but keep that sense of engagement. Bring your hands down to walk yourself back up to straight, keeping your legs engaged the whole way. Coming up with this beautiful straight spine. And then just relax the legs for a moment, give them a little wiggle out, see how they feel. We'll draw the toes in again now, pressing the sits bones down. Just bring the arms out to the side, take a little stretch to one side, stretch to the other. It might feel quite nice through the shoulders. And then you could bring one arm down to the leg, that side, Right arm, other arm can come up and over. Big side bend, maybe trying to press this opposite hip down. And coming up and stretching to the other side. And coming up, and then we're just gonna drop forward again. Just see now where you naturally come to. Just a really passive one now. My legs are still engaged, so I'm not pulling myself forward. I'm just letting my upper body naturally rest into this forward fold. Tuck the chin a little bit, nice long back of the neck. As you hold the pose, you might find your body naturally wants to come a little deeper. Take one more breath here. And then pressing the hands into the ground, bring yourself back up. Use your hand to lift your knees, to bring them in. Take any little movements just to release through the hips, the low back. See how you feel. And then we're going to come into our last pose today. So I'm using the bolster again, but what you could do is use a block on its middle level and maybe put the blanket over it just to soften it. Otherwise, we will pop those over there, bring the bolster down, and I'm going to start by actually bringing it right behind the back of the head. So if you feel for as you put this ridge at the back of your skull, I'm going to try and come down so that mound at the back of your skull is just resting on your prop, whether it's the block or it's the bolster, so that your chin sort of naturally wants to come down into your chest. You've got this nice stretch through the back of your neck. We're going to turn the chin down and to the left, towards your left underarm, and just keep intending the chin that direction, and bring the right arm out to your side and make like a stop sign. So like you're saying to someone over to your right, which I can only just do with the radiator, it's telling them to stop. You're going to press into the heel of your hand, hold that stop sign out to the right, and keep turning your chin down towards the left. So you're creating a long stretch down the fascia, down the nerves of the right side of your neck and your arm. Just hold that, keep that tension, moving them away from one another. And then make your stop sign into a thumbs up, turn it down, and keep turning it back behind you until you get the engagement along the top of the bicep. You'll feel it. And just hover that off the ground, keeping that chin down towards the left. For 3, for 2, for 1. Oh, and then let that go. Loosen up that arm. Bring your head back to center. Find your position again. Just notice how that right arm, right neck feels. I'll just move over a little bit here. And then we're going to turn chin down towards your right underarm. Bring the left hand out. Make a stop sign first of all. pressing into the heel of the hand, saying no to someone, and holding that. Keep turning the chin away. And then turn that stop sign into a thumbs up. Keep rotating it down. Keep going towards the wall behind you and hold that tension, keeping the chin and the thumb away from one another for 3, for 2, for 1. And let it go, shake it out. Oh, nice. Okay, to finish, we're going to start to move the bolster now underneath our shoulder blades. So wiggle around with either your block or your shoulder blades and kind of like, you know, wiggle your shoulders in there. Make sure it's really into the icky, sticky bits between your shoulder blades. You're going to interlace the hands behind the back of the head, just cradling the back of the head. And just start by gently dropping the head back a little bit, holding the weight of the head in your hands. And then bringing it forward and wiggle up the bolster a little bit. And then drop the head back, flossing over the bolster. See how that feels? So nice. Gently come up, take a little wiggle. And once more, coming back over the bolster. And you could just carry on flossing up, flossing down. Or if you found a nice place that you like, that you want to work into more, you could take a little wiggle there. You could move your chin to the left, down, round, to the right, and back, taking circles, kind of getting some massage into your shoulder blades. This is going to be quite strong sensation if you're using the block. Maybe take the circles the other way. And then find a place where you're happy. Just let your head drop into your hands, stretching over your back. Taking some nice deep breaths. Take one last deep breath here. And then gently tuck the chin to the chest. Bring yourself up off that bolster. And we're just going to come into our Shavasana. So you could find your blanket. Maybe use the bolster as a pillow. Or maybe you want to move it down under your knees or under your feet. Just getting super cozy. Maybe there's another position altogether that you prefer for Shavasana. Just finding whatever feels really restful, really comfy for you. Letting your body settle. Noticing all the little sensations, the little resonances from your practice. Your shoulders, your neck, your hips, your low back, your legs. Feeling if maybe there's a little bit more spaciousness, a little bit more ease. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's practice. I hope you feel cozy and rested now. And I look forward to practicing again with you soon.